Welcome to MetalVice in 666. I'm your host, Brian, joined with the other host,
Karen.
And for this episode, I wanted to talk about a panel we saw at Fire in the Mountain.
Yes.
Specifically, a comment that was made in there about prefacing metal. Basically, do you need to say woman fronted? Because the panel we went to was a panel of 3 women and narrated by a woman as well, just about women in heavy metal and sort of how they feel and sort of how the industry has changed over the years and sort of their thoughts on certain topics and whatnot. And we have the panelists here now, right? You have those saved.
Yes. So it was Kelly Schilling, Shannon Void, Madeline Johnson, and then moderated by Dylan Running Green.
Yeah. And I can't remember who it was on that panel, but they basically said, like, I don't like when people preface metal by saying, like, it's a woman-fronted band or something like
female
that.
vocalist.
Yeah.
Or, that sort of thing. Like, prefacing that the band has somebody who's not a white male in it. Because it was also, like, talking about indigenous women and, like, you know, stuff like that. Like, saying, oh, an indigenous female-fronted band or something like that. It's like, you don't need to go that far just to say a band, you know, like you don't need to.
Because the moderator was from I think she was from the Blackfeet Nation.
Yeah.
At least she was an indigenous woman, and she was talking about, like, hey, when I make music, I don't want to get cornered into this sort of indigenous only type.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to make necessarily indigenous music. I'm just making music, and I'm getting sort of pigeonholed into this sort of category that I don't necessarily want to be pigeonholed in. And then somebody also said something like, I believe in a philosophy of show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Like, my music should speak for who I am and what I'm talking about, not my gender or my identity or something like that. And I don't know, it got me thinking, and I just wanted to talk about that amongst ourselves because I somewhat agree with that, but I also somewhat don't agree with that.
Okay, let's hear a male's point of view on this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about bands a lot. Like, that's our whole podcast, right? It's talking about live music.
Yeah.
And I have worked really hard over the years of doing this podcast to get away from saying a female fronted band or a female front person.
But I feel like we do say it a lot.
We do say it a lot. And it's like, I'm trying to get away from it as much as possible. And then when we talk about bands, I won't say, like, oh, and they also had a female bassist or a female drummer or something like that. I'll probably just say them like, oh, she did this. Like, I'll try to do it, in that approach. And maybe I should get away from that too and use, like, they, thems and whatnot. I don't know. Speaking of who's in the band and what instruments they play, sure, I agree that we shouldn't necessarily be, like, prefacing them and putting that much focus on the gender or the identity of the person in the band. And like I said, it's something I've been working hard to try to get away from. It's hard for me to do. I don't always do it, but I have been focusing on that. However, and we also really suck at genreizing in music as well. Like, this is this genre, this is just genre. But I also see that having a genre does help identify or help other people who aren't familiar with it to start to get in their mind, like, oh, because you said it's thrash, I now sort of know what to expect when I go into it. Same with sort of prefacing other sort of metal music of, like, saying this is indigenous music or this is Ukrainian folk music, which is going to be different than Norwegian folk music, which is different than Mongolian folk music. Like, in that context or in that situation, I do think prefacing is actually important because it does, to me anyway, give me an idea of what that style of music is. Like, hearing Ignia, for instance, play Ukrainian folk music is so different than Norwegian folk music. And knowing that, like, oh, this is Ukrainian, they're using, like, telling stories from Ukraine. They're singing in whatever language Ukraine speaks. I don't honestly know what they speak. I would assume, but I don't want to just, like, throw the country name and then whatever, you know what I'm saying. But also using their instruments, like, you can pick up on that, and I like hearing that. Like, oh, all right, so this is what Ukrainian folk music is. It's really cool. I enjoy this. So in that context, I think that having a preface does matter and does make a difference. So that's why I was like, I agree with you, but I also disagree with you a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think going for the women-fronted part of it that they were really talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some of the, with try not to genre or, like, preference, like the indigenous portion or, like something like that. Like, they did talk about that very briefly, but most of it was on the women-fronted.
Yeah.
I think we do a lot of calling out when there's women in the band. I'm thinking about the Kitty show where it was like, oh, this person was a woman, this person was a woman, this person was supposed to be a woman, but she couldn't make it, so a male was a drummer. Like, we do that a lot. I don't think it matters, to be honest, if it's a woman or not. And I think that's where they were trying to go with the whole conversation. And then there's times where, like, I think the band is Face Yourself. We saw them at Milwaukee Metal Fest, I believe, this year. I think that was the band, but it's a female fronted band. And I didn't realize that. Like, I've listened to them, but I never knew that they were female fronted because the vocals are so harsh.
Right. We walked in and you're like, oh, I was not expecting her to be singing.
Yeah.
I just, like, I've listened to their stuff before. I just couldn't pick up that, like, it was the female vocalist.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where they were kind of going, is like, it doesn't matter who's up there singing. Like, I enjoy the music.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't matter to me. But sometimes, I will be honest, for me, if I see a female up there who's going to be the vocalist, automatically I'm like, oh, I'm probably not going to like this.
You are like that. You really hate female vocalists.
I do not care for the female sound of singing.
Okay.
Like, in the music that I like to listen to. And that's a problem that I have. It's not anything about the person or whatever. It's just what I care to listen to.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's a problem that you have or anything. It's definitely like there's a certain style of vocals that you like to hear.
Yeah.
Just like Knox Loose. We don't like his vocals.
No, I don't like his vocals.
Like the pitch and just like that screechy tone to it. Like, I think that's fine to say. Like, I typically don't prefer female vocalists because that's not the style of vocals I like to hear. But again, like that band you were mentioning where it's like very harsh.
I think it's Face Yourself.
See, I don't think it is, but I can't remember who it is to even be like, oh, it's this band. But it could be. Again, I don't know.
It could be. But I think that's where I think also part of their conversation was, especially back when they were getting started, people would be like, we don't want to book you, or we can't book you because you're female front, or like not necessarily female fronted, but just you're female. So you aren't the face that we think should be at this club, or you aren't like this isn't going to bring the crowd that we want for this club, or whatever the case is. Like, they talked about that a lot, of, you know, trying to break through those stereotypes that a lot of people have. And I think a lot more people would have that too, like with, you know, if it's a trans person, or if it's a person of color, or if it's, you know, like the indigenous, you know, like anything like that. Like, it's, you know, trying to break through those white male stereotypes. And that's what the whole conversation was.
Yeah, and the panelist who did bring this up, I believe she also said something along the lines of like, I appreciate you're coming from a good spot in your heart by trying to like uplift us and make us like, hey, check this out because it's female fronted and there's not many female fronted bands out there and whatnot. And they did also point out that like it has gotten a lot better as the years go on. And we've even brought that up. Like, it is still heavily white male dominated music genres that we listen to, but there is a lot more diversity in terms of gender, race, ethnicity, all of that we find. And we sort of, I don't want to say we gravitate towards, but I really do enjoy the what I call like the non-traditional or the non-white male based bands a lot. Like, not that I don't prefer like Lamb of God, for instance, right? I love Lamb of God, but like Bloodywood comes around and I'm like, holy shit, this is so different and unique compared to everything else. Ignia the same way, just like bringing in those instruments. Scold was the one we saw just before going to Fire in the Mountain, and that was fucking phenomenal. Again, a non-traditional sort of what you consider as traditional metal and whatnot. So I love seeing those, and that's where I was like, I love to preface it because I like to find those weird sort of nuances and whatnot. But I am trying to get away from like the gender, ethnicity isn't the most important thing. It is the music itself, and that's like, I don't know. It's something I've worked on over the last few years and I'm trying to get a lot better at it. I don't know.
This panel was a little bit, well, we only saw a few of them because one, there was overlap, and also just timing wise, like it's hard to, you know, like, we were bathing in the lake, and that was generally when we saw the panels. But it was, so this one asked or allowed time for some questions, and a lot of the questions were about like, somebody made a comment of, for them to move forward, they would have to work 10 times harder or do it 10 times, where a male counterpart would only have to do it once and they would be accepted. And so some of the questions were around that, like, how do you move forward, or like, how do you get yourself into the space, that sort of thing. I didn't ask a question because I don't do that. But like, a thing that I always have brought up, and I brought it up on the podcast as well, is I feel like if the person is female or female fronted or something like that, that there's this stereotype or there's this look that the female needs to have, where maybe wearing something a little bit more skimpy, or like, like a leotard, or not a leotard, what are those things called? Like a, not jumpsuit thing, but like skin tight. Like I'm thinking like Arch Enemy. Like she's always wearing like the skin tight thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I don't know if that's, like promoters saying that, or if it's them themselves being like, I like wearing this, so this is what I want to wear. That sort of thing. But it was a question that I thought of that was like, I kind of wish I would have asked it, because I feel like males can just go out in jeans and t-shirt and be fine. Like nobody's going to say anything. Where a female, the ones that we have seen generally are dressing more, not provocative, but like in a way that's more female facing.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I feel like that's true, especially with like the older ones, as you mentioned, like Arch Enemy, for instance. But as newer bands come around, it's sort of like, fuck that, I'm not doing that shit anymore.
I did think of Frozen Soul, because Sam never wears.
Right.
I mean, she always just wears t-shirt and jeans, or whatever. So. And
just like that band you were mentioning at Milwaukee Metal Fest, it was just like trip pants and shit, right? Like, fuck that, I'm just gonna wear these.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. It's something that I thought of, is like, I definitely see it. How the female is supposed to look.
Yeah, I definitely see it. And again, I have no insight in this whatsoever, but I definitely see, I could see it being the promoter or the management, especially the older bands who came around, 20 years ago, where, if you're going to be a female band, you have to do this, to like, get that sex appeal up and whatnot.
Right.
Where the younger bands, there's so much more, diversity now in our scene, that like, all right, we can wear where the fuck we want. We don't have to like try to. Metal for some reason is not a commercial.
No, it's not
music anyway. So I don't understand why you're like trying to be commercial. Like it's You're not gonna be on fucking commercials, or you're not gonna play the Super Bowl halftime show. So like, why does it fucking matter what you look like?
Yeah.
Right. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. You're playing for the people.
People are there for the music first and foremost. Like. Yeah. I don't know. It was a really good panel. I just wanted to, again, that one comment during the panel made me think a little bit during it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about that because like I said, I do think in times prefacing does make sense when you're talking about a genre as a whole. Yeah. But again, like the moderator who's like, I get sort of pigeonholed in this indigenous music. Like I'm an indigenous musician. If their music isn't pulling from indigenous elements, at that point, it's like, all right, then you're prefacing for no reason. But if they are, cool, that makes sense. But also, you as the artist should have the leeway to say, that album was an indigenous album. Now this next album is just a straight up like rap metal album. Like there's no sort of overlap between those two.
And we don't know what kind of music she produces, or makes or whatever. But obviously this was more towards females in metal, but it'd been interesting to hear a perspective of maybe like a pop artist or something, which we didn't have the opportunity of that, but it'd be interesting to kind of see the difference.
Very different for sure. That's then where the look that you were mentioning earlier comes in 100% more, because again, that's a more commercial viable music format, also, art style.
I feel like with some other genres, it's more accepting to be a female in the genre than maybe metal is.
Yeah, maybe
not accepting that. Maybe
back in the day for sure. Like you didn't see too many, and I think one of the panelists brought that up of like I was the only female going to shows. Yeah, like she brought up like the black metal scene.
That was in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, in Pittsburgh. She's like, I was the only female going to black metal shows, and they were not accepting back in the day. Yeah. This is probably like the 1990s, I would assume.
Probably, yeah.
Is when she's going.
Early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah.
She didn't seem that old, though.
She didn't, no.
I mean, 90s, she could have been a child.
Yeah, she's been doing it for 30 years, though,
That's
she said.
true.
So,
that's true. So she'd be like 10 years older than us.
So that would be like in the 90s, I would assume. Any hoodles. Sure. She also brought up that like the scene has changed. But back in the day, I was like the only female going to these shows. Yeah.
But then she also said like, I mean, I think this is a good thing to say is because she was the promoter, I believe.
Yep.
And she said, I just started doing it.
Right,
I started reaching out to bands that I wanted to see, that sort of thing, and not necessarily worrying about her gender or her view or like how people viewed her. She's like, she just started contacting people.
Yeah, and one of the other panelists is from Denver, I believe, and she's just like, I'm booking my own shows, my own DIY shows. I'm like just calling up other bands. I'm calling up venues I know, like, hey, can I put on a show? Can I do a show here type thing?
Yeah.
And I guess one piece of advice she gave, somebody asked a question, I can't remember what the question was, but she's like, what I do, talking about like booking shows and whatnot, she's like, what I do when I go to a city, I just look up bands in that city and be like, hey, would you like to play a show with me? And she books them that way type thing. Yeah. And they're like, you'll get 10 no's, but you'll get one yes. Yeah. Like, just got to keep going. Don't let the no's. 800.
Yeah. For some reason in my mind, it's like, you're going to get turned down 800 times, but that one yes is, exactly. And that could be exaggerated. Maybe I'm just making that up, but I feel like it was a large number that she said.
But basically, don't get discouraged.
Yeah. Just keep going. Yeah. So. But we'll work on it. We'll work on not trying to say.
I need to for sure.
Yeah. I feel like now we're gonna be subconscious about it.
Oh, for sure. I've already been self-conscious a little bit about it when we recorded our episodes. Now it'll just even be more so for sure.
Yeah. Now people can call us out and be like, "You said you weren't gonna do that."
Yeah, it's hard. Bad habits are hard to change. So it's just going to take time. And as long as we keep trying to work on it. To me, that's the important thing.
Yeah, learning from yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Always work to improve.
Yes.
In any case, that was a little bit of a rambly conversation, but it was a good panel. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, get out there, check out some live music, and we'll see you out there.
Bye.